She blocked me from everything 3 days after my birthday. I need silence, she said, but she forgot I still got bank notifications.
Quase sem espaço de armazenamento. Se você ficar sem espaço, não poderá salvar arquivos no Drive, nem fazer backup no Google Photos. She blocked me from everything 3 days after my birthday. I need silence, she said, but she forgot I still got bank notifications. Before I share my story, I'd love for you to comment where you're watching from so I can get to know you better. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll receive more inspiring stories like this one. The realization hit me while I was sitting in my office, trying to focus on work. I'd been sending Diana messages all morning with no response. When I checked Instagram, her profile wouldn't load. Same with Facebook. Then I tried calling again, straight to voicemail. At first I thought something had happened to her. 15 years of marriage, and suddenly complete silence. The panic rising in my chest made it hard to breathe. Was she hurt? Had there been an accident? I was about to call the hospitals when my phone buzzed with an alert from our joint bank account. A $1,200 charge at Nordstrom. Relief washed over me. She was alive at least, quickly followed by confusion. If she was well enough to shop, why was she ignoring me? That's when I checked my email and found her message sent at 3:42 a.m. Anthony, I need silence. Please don't contact me for a while. I need space to think. Space. Silence. After 15 years together, this was how she communicated. By blocking me from every platform and then dropping nearly our entire month's mortgage payment at a department store. I stared at my computer screen, the figures on my financial report blurring as my eyes unfocused. My 43rd birthday celebration from 3 days ago flashed through my mind. Diana had seemed fine then. She'd organized a small dinner with friends, bought me an expensive watch, kissed me on the cheek in front of everyone. What had changed in those 72 hours? My phone buzzed again, another notification, $340 at a high-end restaurant downtown. Then, minutes later, $890 at a boutique hotel. A boutique hotel. My stomach clenched into a tight knot. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe she just needed a day away, a mental health break. Diana had been stressed lately with her new position at the marketing firm, but something felt wrong. The timing, the silence, the spending. When the third notification came through, $3,500 at a jewelry store I'd never heard of, I knew this wasn't just about needing space. With trembling fingers, I logged into our banking app and scrolled through the recent transactions. The spending had actually started 2 weeks ago, small at first, and increasingly larger. Always during work hours when she knew I'd be busy with clients. The total added up to over $14,000 in the past 14 days. Our anniversary gift fund, the money we'd been setting aside for our trip to Italy next summer, was nearly depleted, and the transactions showed no signs of slowing down. Mr. Blackwell, my assistant's voice snapped me back to reality. Your 2 o'clock is here. Cancel it, I said, my voice sounding strange even to my own ears. Cancel everything for the rest of the day. I drove to the boutique hotel in a daze, the world around me seeming distant and muffled. 15 years of marriage. We'd built everything together from scratch. I'd supported Diana through 3 career changes, the loss of her father, her brother's addiction problems. She'd stood by me when my business nearly failed during the recession, when I was working 18-hour days to keep us afloat. What had changed? The hotel was exactly what I expected. Sleek, modern, discreet. The kind of place you go when you don't want to be found. The kind of place that charges $890 per night and doesn't ask questions. I parked across the street, my heart hammering against my ribs. What was I doing here? What did I expect to find? Part of me wanted to drive away, to pretend the notifications were a banking error, that Diana really did just need some space. But then I saw her walking through the hotel's glass doors laughing. Her head was tilted back, her hand resting lightly on someone's arm. A man's arm. He was tall, well-dressed, with silver-streaked dark hair. I recognized him immediately. Martin Keller, Diana's new boss. The recently divorced CEO who had personally recruited her to head his marketing department 3 months ago. They didn't see me as they climbed into his sleek black Mercedes. Diana was wearing new clothes. That must have been the Nordstrom purchase. Around her neck gleamed a necklace I'd never seen before. As they drove away, another notification buzzed on my phone. A reservation for 2 on a flight to Cabo San Lucas, tomorrow morning, using our joint account, using our anniversary money. I sat frozen in my car, watching their taillights disappear into the traffic, feeling like my entire life was unraveling in real time, thread by painful thread. I didn't confront Diana. Not yet. That night I drove home to our empty house, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and started digging. It's strange how betrayal sharpens your senses, makes you notice things that were right in front of you all along. The password to Diana's laptop, which I'd never needed before, came to me instantly. Her mother's maiden name plus the year we met. So sentimental, I used to think. Now it felt like mockery. Her emails revealed nothing at first. Diana had always been cautious, meticulous, but her cloud storage told a different story. Photos, dozens of them, dating back nearly 6 months. Diana and Martin at business dinners that ran late into the evening, weekend conferences where they were suspiciously alone. The timeline matched perfectly with Martin's divorce finalization. My hands trembled as I scrolled further back, looking for any sign that my marriage hadn't been a complete lie. Instead, I found a folder labeled Anthony Issues. Inside were screenshots of text conversations with her friends. Anthony's so clingy lately, always wanting to know where I am. Dated 8 months ago. Had to cancel lunch with Martin because Anthony wanted to surprise me for our anniversary. So annoying. 6 months ago. Anthony keeps talking about having kids now that he's over 40. I've never wanted them. He knows this. Why can't he just be happy with what we have? 4 months ago. Each message cut deeper than the last. The woman in these texts wasn't the Diana I thought I knew. She was someone else entirely. Someone who saw me as an obstacle, a burden. My phone rang, startling me. It was Jack, my oldest friend. "Hey man, are you okay? Diana called Rachel and told her you were having some kind of breakdown, tracking her credit cards and showing up at her hotel. She said you're being obsessive." The room seemed to tilt. "What, Jack? That's not what happened. Look, I know things have been tough with your mum's health issues and all. Diana said you've been really controlling lately because of it." My mother. The missing piece clicked into place. "Jack, when was the last time you saw my mom?" Silence. Then, "I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. Diana always said your mom preferred to keep to herself after her diagnosis." My heart sank. "Diana told you my mum had been diagnosed with something?" "Yeah, early onset dementia. She said that's why you stopped bringing her around, that it was too painful for you." I hung up without responding and immediately dialed my mother's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm and clear as ever. "Anthony, what a lovely surprise. I was just thinking about you." "Mom," my voice cracked. "Are you okay?" "Of course I am. Why wouldn't I be? No health problems. No dementia." She laughed, confused. "Dementia? Anthony, I'm only 67 and sharp as a tack. Where on earth did you get that idea?" "When was the last time I visited you?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Well," she hesitated, "it's been a while. Diana said you've been overwhelmed with work. She stops by sometimes, though, always explains why you can't make it. I understand, honey. You're building your life." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Diana had been systematically cutting me off from my own mother for years, fabricating reasons why we couldn't see each other, creating a narrative where I was too busy, too preoccupied. "Mom, I'm coming over tomorrow. We need to talk." After I hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Then my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Anthony, it's Melissa from Hartwell Associates. We worked together 3 years ago. I heard about Diana and Martin. I'm so sorry. This isn't the first time he's done this. He did the same thing with Sarah from accounting at his last company. They always blame the husband, make him seem unstable. Then they move on once they've gotten what they want. Diana's the 3rd woman he's done this with. I should have warned you when she took the job." I stared at the text, memories flooding back. Diana's sudden coldness 3 months ago, the late nights at the office, the gradual withdrawal. Her suggesting I talk to a therapist about my jealousy issues I hadn't even known I had until she pointed them out. And then there was the money. I opened our banking app again, this time looking further back. Small withdrawals at first, building over time. Money moved to an account I didn't recognize, at least $50,000 over the past year. My phone rang again. Diana. Anthony. Her voice was cold, controlled. I heard you've been telling people I'm having an affair. This is exactly why I needed space. Your paranoia is out of control. Diana. I kept my voice steady. I know about my mother. I know about the money. I know about Martin. Silence. Then a laugh that chilled me to the bone. You don't know anything, she said. And if you keep this up, everyone will see just how unhinged you've become. Who do you think they'll believe? Me, or the husband who's tracking his wife's purchases and stalking her at hotels? The line went dead. I sat there holding my phone, realizing that the past 15 years of my life had been built on quicksand. And now, I was sinking fast. The morning after discovering Diana's betrayal, I drove to my mother's house. The small blue colonial looked exactly as I remembered, though the garden appeared more overgrown than it should have been. Mum greeted me with a warm hug that made my chest ache. How long had it been? Diana had convinced me that Mum preferred her space, that my frequent calls were enough. You look tired, Anthony, Mum said, ushering me inside. Is everything all right? I sat at her kitchen table, the same one where I'd done homework as a child, and told her everything. The blocking, the bank notifications, Martin, the lies about her health. With each revelation, her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to quiet anger. She told me you were too busy to visit, Mom said softly, that your anxiety was getting worse and you needed space from family obligations. She reached for my hand. I never believed you'd just abandon me, but when months turned into years, I started to wonder. I'm so sorry, Mom. I had no idea. Don't apologize. This isn't your fault. She hesitated. There's something else you should know. 2 months ago, Diana came by asking if I would consider selling the house. My body went cold. What? She said you two were planning to move to California for her new position with Martin's company expansion, that you wanted to use my home equity to invest in property there. Mum shook her head. It didn't sound like you, but she was so convincing. California. The word echoed in my head like a death knell. Not once had Diana mentioned moving. Not once had we discussed California. Did you sign anything? I asked, dreading the answer. No, I wanted to talk to you first, face to face. Diana kept insisting we could handle it over the phone, but something felt wrong. Relief washed over me. At least Mom's house was safe. My phone buzzed. Another bank notification, $5,000 transferred to an external account. Then a text from Diana. Since you're determined to make this difficult, I'm taking what I deserve. My lawyer will be in touch. Your lawyer? I muttered, dialing her number. She answered on the 4th ring. Anthony, I'm busy. What lawyer, Diana? What are you doing? She sighed, as if dealing with a difficult child. I've decided to file for divorce. Martin's company is opening a branch in San Francisco, and I'm taking the position there. And you weren't going to tell me. You were just going to empty our accounts and disappear. My voice was rising, but I couldn't control it. I tried to make this easy by giving myself some space before having this conversation. You're the one who made it messy by snooping and stalking me. Stalking you? Diana, you're spending our life savings. You tried to trick my mother into selling her house. See? This is exactly why I needed distance. You're becoming unhinged, Anthony. Frankly, it's frightening. Unhinged? You've been having an affair, stealing our money, and lying about my mother's health to isolate me. That's your perspective, she said coolly. I've been documenting your increasingly controlling and paranoid behavior for months. My therapist has extensive notes. So does Martin, as my employer who's witnessed your emotional abuse. The calculated precision of her words hit me like ice water. This wasn't a sudden decision. This was a campaign, methodically planned and executed. So you won't get away with this, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I already have. The line went dead. I stood in my mother's kitchen, phone clutched in my hand, feeling the floor disappear beneath my feet. Diana had been orchestrating this for months, maybe longer. building a narrative where I was the villain, the unstable husband she needed to escape. Mom placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "What are you going to do?" I took a deep breath. "First, I need to secure what's left of our finances before she takes everything. Back at home, I called our bank to freeze the joint accounts, but it was too late. Diana had withdrawn another $20,000 that morning, almost everything that remained in our savings. I could dispute the transactions, but that would take time. Time I didn't have. As I hung up, the doorbell rang. A courier handed me an envelope, divorce papers. Diana was filing on grounds of emotional cruelty. She wanted the house, half my business assets, and alimony. The document portrayed me as an increasingly unstable, controlling husband who monitored her spending and isolated her from friends and colleagues. I laughed bitterly at the sheer audacity. She had flipped the entire script, accusing me of exactly what she had done to me. My phone buzzed with a text from Jack. "Diana told us everything. I can't believe you tracked her to a hotel and made a scene. Get help, man." Then Rachel, "We're here for you, but you need professional help. Diana's worried about your mental state." One by one, messages poured in from friends, all of them believing Diana's version of events. The house of cards I thought was my life wasn't just falling. It was being systematically burned to the ground. I sat in our living room, soon to be no longer ours, surrounded by photographs of what I now realized had been an elaborate performance. 15 years of marriage reduced to a calculated exit strategy, and I had never seen it coming. The weeks following Diana's betrayal passed in a blur of legal consultations and sleepless nights. I moved in with my mother temporarily. Our house now felt contaminated by lies. Diana had hired one of the most aggressive divorce attorneys in the city, a woman known for portraying husbands as monsters, regardless of the facts. Every day brought a new accusation. I had been financially controlling. I had isolated Diana from friends. I had become increasingly paranoid and tracked her movements. Each lie was supported by evidence, carefully edited text messages, statements from her therapist, who turned out to be Martin's sister, and testimonials from mutual friends who had only heard Diana's side. "This is textbook gaslighting," said Eleanor, my lawyer, during our third meeting. She was in her 60s, with steel-grey hair and eyes that had seen every dirty divorce tactic imaginable. "They're trying to make you doubt your own reality, to react emotionally, so they can point to your behavior as proof of instability." "It's working," I admitted. "Half the time I find myself wondering if I really was controlling without realizing it." "That's exactly what they want." Eleanor set down her pen. "Anthony, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know a setup when I see one. Martin Keller has done this before. He finds vulnerable women, convinces them their husbands are the problem, then swoops in as the savior. When he's done with them, he discards them with nothing. What do? We fight smart, not loud. They expect you to explode, to make accusations, to give them more ammunition. Instead, we're going to build our case silently. Eleanor's strategy was methodical. First, we documented every unauthorized financial transaction Diana had made. Next, we requested phone records showing the timing of her relationship with Martin, which predated her claims about my controlling behavior. Most importantly, we gathered evidence of Diana's systematic isolation of me from my mother and friends. "What about the money she's already taken?" I asked. "We'll get some of it back, but not all," Eleanor warned. "Focus on protecting what you still have. Has she tried to access your business accounts?" My business, a financial consulting firm I'd built from nothing over the past decade. Diana had never shown interest in it before, but now it was her primary target. She can't access them directly, but the divorce filing requests half the business value. Then that's our next priority. We need to shield your company. While Eleanor worked on the legal front, I focused on rebuilding my personal life. The first step was reconnecting with my mother. We fell back into our old easy relationship quickly, as if the years of separation had been nothing but a brief interruption. Each day with her healed something inside me that Diana had broken. "I never trusted her," Mom confessed one evening as we worked in her garden together. "There was always something calculating behind her smile, but I kept my concerns to myself because you seemed happy." "I thought I was," I said, digging my hands into the rich soil. Now I wonder if I ever really knew her at all. 1 month after Diana left, I received an unexpected call from Rachel, Jack's wife. Her voice was hesitant, uncomfortable. "Anthony, I owe you an apology. Diana's story isn't adding up." "What do you mean?" "She told us you'd become obsessed with tracking her movements, but Jack remembered you didn't even know how to use the location sharing on your phone. He had to set it up for you last year." She paused. "And then yesterday I saw her with Martin at Cavalli's. They were arguing. I overheard her say something about the plan not working, and him saying we need more time before we access his business assets." My hand tightened around the phone. "Thank you for telling me." "There's more. She's been calling everyone, telling dramatic stories about finding evidence that you were unfaithful. But the timeline doesn't make sense. And—" Rachel hesitated. "She asked Jack to sign a statement saying he witnessed you being emotionally abusive at our dinner party last Christmas. He refused." One by one, the careful narrative Diana had constructed began to unravel. Friends who had initially believed her stories started noticing inconsistencies. 2 more of Martin's former girlfriends came forward with experiences eerily similar to mine. Eleanor called, her voice uncharacteristically excited. "We caught a break. Diana filed for an emergency financial order, claiming you've hidden assets and she has no money to live on. But we have bank records showing she transferred over $75,000 to her private account. The judge was not impressed with her overlooking that detail." "Does this help our case?" "Immensely. Her credibility is damaged. Now we go on the offensive." With Eleanor's guidance, I made my next move. I refinanced my business, transferring my personal stake to a trust with my mother as beneficiary. A completely legal maneuver that protected my company from Diana's claims, while ensuring she'd still receive a fair settlement based on its actual value during our marriage. I also reached out to Martin's ex-wife, Jessica. Initially reluctant, she eventually agreed to meet at a quiet cafe outside the city. "I was Diana once," she said, stirring her coffee. "Martin convinced me my husband was emotionally abusive, that I deserved better. He helped me plan my exit just like he's doing with Diana." Her smile was sad. 6 months after my divorce was final, he moved on to someone else. By then, I'd alienated everyone who cared about me. "Did you ever make amends with your ex-husband?" Jessica shook her head. "He wouldn't even speak to me. I don't blame him." She slid a folder across the table. "But maybe you can use these. Text messages, emails, everything showing Martin's pattern. It won't undo the damage Diana's done, but it might help protect what you have left." As I drove home, clutching the folder of evidence, I realized something important. I wasn't fighting to get Diana back. That woman had never truly existed. I was fighting to reclaim my life, my dignity, and my truth. For the first time since she blocked me, I felt something close to gratitude. The pain had cleared my vision, allowing me to see what had been hidden in plain sight all along. 3 months after Diana's disappearance from my life, I sat across from Eleanor in her office, reviewing our case strategy for the upcoming court date. The evidence against Diana had grown substantial. Bank records showing her systematic draining of our accounts, testimonies from friends who'd witnessed her manipulation, and most damning of all, the pattern of similar behavior from Martin with his previous rescues. "We're in a strong position," Eleanor said, closing her portfolio, "but Diana's attorney is requesting a mediation session before we go to court. They've indicated a willingness to negotiate." "Why now?" I asked, suspicious. Diana had been nothing but hostile since filing for divorce, rejecting every reasonable offer I'd made. "My guess? The evidence we've gathered is too compelling to ignore. They're hoping to settle before a judge sees it all laid out." I considered this. "Do I have to see her?" "Yes, but I'll be with you the entire time. Anthony, this could work in our favor. Diana's used to you being emotional, reactive. She's not prepared for the man you've become." The man I'd become. I thought about that phrase as I drove to my mother's house afterward. The past 3 months had changed me. The initial shock and pain had hardened into something else. Not bitterness, but clarity. I no longer wanted revenge against Diana. I simply wanted the truth to be known. At Mum's house, I found her in the garden with a visitor, Sarah, my high school girlfriend, whom I hadn't seen in over 20 years. Sarah was just dropping off some plants for the garden, Mom explained, beaming. She owns that new nursery on Maple Street. Sarah smiled, brushing dirt from her hands. Your mum's been my best customer since I opened. Later, after Sarah left, Mum handed me a cup of tea. She asks about you every time I visit her shop, always has. Mum, are you matchmaking? I asked, half amused. I'm just saying not all women are like Diana. Some remember who you were before they met you, and still care about that person afterward. The morning of the mediation I dressed carefully, not in my usual power suit, but in a simple button-down and slacks. No tie, no expensive watch. Nothing that suggested I was trying to intimidate or impress. Diana and Martin arrived together, a united front. She wore a designer dress that must have cost thousands, her hair and makeup flawless. Martin looked every inch the successful CEO in a tailored suit, his hand possessively on Diana's lower back. Their attorney, a sharp-featured woman named Ms. Winters, spoke first. We appreciate this opportunity to resolve matters amicably. My client is willing to accept a fair division of assets and put this unfortunate situation behind everyone. Eleanor smiled thinly. We're certainly interested in fair. Let's start by addressing the $75,000 removed from joint accounts without authorization. Diana's face tightened. That money was compensation for years of emotional labor in a controlling relationship. I met her eyes for the first time. Is that what you call our marriage now? Emotional labor? Don't act innocent, Anthony. You monitored my spending, isolated me from opportunities, questioned my every move. I think you're confusing me with yourself, I said quietly. You were the one who cut me off from my mother by lying about her health. You were the one who turned our friends against me with false stories. Ms. Winters interjected, These accusations are exactly why we're here. We have documentation of Mr. Blackwell's controlling behavior, including statements from... Actually, Eleanor cut in, we have something to share as well. She slid a folder across the table. Bank records showing Ms. Holloway transferred funds to private accounts beginning 9 months ago, well before any alleged controlling behavior began. Phone records showing over 300 communications between Ms. Holloway and Mr. Keller during that same period. And statements from 3 women who experienced identical patterns of isolation and financial exploitation in relationships with Mr. Keller. Martin paled visibly. Diana's hand trembled as she reached for the folder. Perhaps most concerning, Eleanor continued, we have evidence that Ms. Holloway attempted to manipulate Mr. Blackwell's elderly mother into selling her home under false pretenses. Diana's eyes darted to Martin, who was now staring stonily at the wall. This is all being taken out of context, she stammered. I leaned forward. What context justifies lying to my mother about me for years? What context makes it okay to tell our friends I was mentally unstable when you were the one planning an exit strategy with your boss? Diana's composure finally cracked. You were supposed to fight harder. You were supposed to beg, to fall apart without me. That's what the others did. The room fell silent. The others, I echoed. Martin stood abruptly. We need a break. Sit down, Mr. Keller, Eleanor said coldly. I think we're finally getting to the truth. Diana was crying now, but not the calculated tears I'd seen her use at dinner parties to get her way. These were ugly, genuine sobs. He said you'd be devastated, that you'd give me anything to come back. That's how it always worked with the others. The husbands always broke down and offered everything. I looked at Martin, who refused to meet my eyes. How many times have you done this? I asked him directly. Ms. Winters attempted to intervene. This line of questioning is inappropriate. 5, Diana whispered. I'm the 5th. He finds women in committed relationships, makes them believe their husbands are the problem, helps them extract maximum assets in the divorce, and then, she trailed off, and then he moves on to the next target, I finished for her. I turned to Ms. Winters. I wonder if your firm would be interested to learn about this pattern, or perhaps the Bar Association. The color drained from the attorney's face. Martin finally spoke, his voice cold. Diana, we're leaving now. But Diana remained seated, staring at the evidence before her. He told me it would be easy, that you were weak, that all we had to do was push the right buttons and you'd crumble. She looked up at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "But you didn't." "No," I said simply. "I didn't." In that moment, looking at the woman I had once pledged my life to, I felt nothing but a profound sadness, not for what I had lost, but for what had never truly existed between us. 1 year later, I sat on my mother's porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. So much had changed, yet this view remained constant, a reminder that some things endure despite life's storms. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, much more favorably than anyone expected. After Diana's breakdown at mediation, Martin had abruptly withdrawn his support, leaving her to face the consequences alone. Realizing how thoroughly she'd been manipulated, Diana made a surprising decision. She agreed to a fair settlement without further conflict. I didn't get everything back. The money she'd spent with Martin, almost $90,000 in total, was largely gone. But I kept my business intact, received the house in the settlement, and most importantly, reclaimed my reputation. Within weeks of our mediation, the carefully constructed narrative of me as an abusive, controlling husband had crumbled completely. "More lemonade?" Mom appeared at the screen door, pitcher in hand. "Thanks, Mom." I held out my glass, smiling as she settled beside me on the swing. We sat in comfortable silence, something I'd come to value more than ever this past year. After living with so many words designed to manipulate and wound, silence felt honest, healing. "I saw Diana at the grocery store yesterday," Mom said finally. I turned to her, surprised. "You never mentioned that." "I wasn't sure if I should. She looks different, thinner, less polished. She asked about you." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you're doing well. That we're closer than ever." Mom squeezed my hand. She seemed genuinely glad to hear it. I nodded, processing this information. Diana had returned to town 3 months ago after things imploded with Martin. He had moved on to his next target, leaving Diana without the California dream job or relationship he'd promised. According to Jack, she'd taken a position at a small local marketing firm and kept mostly to herself. "Did you know she's been seeing a real therapist?" Mom continued. "Not Martin's sister, but Dr. Reynolds, the one who helped you after Dad died." "No, I didn't know that." The thought of Diana seeking genuine help stirred something in me. Not forgiveness exactly, but a certain peace. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Still on for dinner tomorrow?" I smiled as I typed back a confirmation. Sarah and I had been dating for 4 months now, taking things slowly, building something based on honesty and shared history. She remembered me as I was before Diana, before success, before pain. The awkward boy with big dreams and a terrible sense of humor. With her, I didn't have to explain my past or defend my present. She already knew both. "Sarah seems lovely," Mom observed, not even trying to hide her satisfied smile. "She is," I agreed, pocketing my phone, "but that's not why I'm smiling." "Oh?" "I was just thinking about how much I've learned about the value of silence this past year." Mom nodded thoughtfully. "There's a difference between the silence that isolates and the silence that heals." "Exactly. Diana used silence as a weapon. She blocked me, cut me off, tried to erase me from my own life." I gestured around us, the peaceful garden, the setting sun, the gentle creak of the porch swing. But this kind of silence, it's where I found myself again. 2 days later, I was sorting through the last of my things at the house. I'd finally decided to sell it. Too many memories, too much phantom pain in its corners. As I packed books from the study, the doorbell rang. Diana stood on the porch, looking smaller somehow, less certain than the woman who had once commanded every room she entered. "I hope it's okay that I came by," she said. "I heard you're selling the house." I nodded, not inviting her in, but not sending her away either. "I won't take much of your time," she continued. "I just wanted to give you this." She handed me a check for $90,000. "It's everything I took plus interest." I stared at the check, speechless. "I've been working with Dr. Reynolds on making amends," she explained. "Not for forgiveness, I don't expect that, but because it's the right thing to do." "How did you—" "I sold everything. The jewelry, the designer clothes, the car Martin bought me. I've been living simply, saving every penny." She glanced at the for sale sign in the yard. "I heard about your mother's foundation. for supporting elderly parents isolated by family estrangement. I think it's wonderful. I hadn't expected this, not the money, not the awareness of my mother's project, not this version of Diana who seemed to carry genuine remorse. "Thank you," I said finally, accepting the check. "There's one more thing." She pulled an envelope from her purse. "Letters I intercepted from your mother over the years. I told you she never wrote, but—" She trailed off, ashamed. "You should have them." As she turned to leave, I found myself calling after her. "Diana." She paused, looking back. "I hope you find peace," I said, meaning it. Her smile was sad but genuine. "I hope so too. I'm learning that real peace can't be bought, stolen, or manufactured. It has to be earned." She hesitated. "I read about you and Sarah. She seems like she makes you happy." "She does," I confirmed. "She always sees me clearly." "That's what real love should do," Diana said softly. "I see that now." After she left, I sat on the front steps, holding the envelope of my mother's letters. I didn't feel anger anymore, or even hurt. What Diana and Martin had taken from me, money, time, trust, had been replaced by something more valuable: authentic connections, clear boundaries, and a profound appreciation for honest silence. That evening, as I shared dinner with Sarah at her cozy farmhouse on the edge of town, I told her about Diana's visit. "Are you okay?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. "I am," I said, surprised by how completely I meant it. For a long time I thought what happened with Diana broke something in me, my ability to trust, to love, to believe in people. But that's not true. It just taught me to value the right things. "And what are the right things?" Sarah asked, taking my hand across the table. I thought about my mother, about the foundation we'd started together to help others reconnected with estranged family, about the peaceful silence we shared on her porch, about Sarah herself who knew my past but focused on our present. "The connections that remain when all the noise stops," I said. "The people who stay even when you have nothing material to offer them. The silence that heals instead of hurts." Sarah smiled, understanding perfectly. "To healing silence, then," she said, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers. "And to the unexpected gifts it brings."